Welcome to Environmental Intelligence, Episode 46, for June 17th, 2026. Your briefing on environmental regulatory, science, and compliance developments that matter for Canadian professionals. BC Hydro's updated Integrated Resource Plan revises capacity assumptions for electrified demand growth through 2035. British Columbia released two closely related updates on electricity planning that reset load forecasts and conservation targets for clean energy projects. Manitoba extended provincial disaster assistance criteria in response to more frequent extreme weather. Ontario saw new battery storage construction begin under existing IESO procurement rules. If you only note one thing today for your compliance calendar, compare current client load projections against BC Hydro's new baseline assumptions before Q3 forecasting submissions. British Columbia issued an updated BC Hydro Integrated Resource Plan that lowers projected capacity additions relative to earlier electrification scenarios. The plan replaces prior demand forecasts with more conservative growth assumptions tied to slower industrial load uptake. Previous iterations had assumed faster alignment with provincial net zero pathways. The revision reduces the number of new clean energy procurement tranches expected before 2035. Consultants preparing environmental assessments or permit applications for generation and transmission projects must now align submissions with the lower build-out schedule. Risk assessments for sites adjacent to planned corridors should reevaluate cumulative impact pathways under the revised timeline. No formal comment period is attached, but BC Hydro will accept targeted technical feedback through existing utility liaison channels. Manitoba broadened eligibility under its Provincial Disaster Financial Assistance Program to include more frequent extreme weather events linked to climate trends. The change removes previous per-event thresholds that had excluded smaller but repeated incidents. Assessment and remediation teams working on flood-affected properties should confirm updated claim documentation requirements before submitting 2026 loss reports. Scout Clean Energy began construction on the Trail Road battery storage facility under existing ESO contract terms. No new environmental approvals were required beyond previously issued permits. Site assessors monitoring nearby contaminated land parcels should verify that construction phase groundwater monitoring aligns with existing Ontario EPA conditions. Vapor pressure deficit emerged as the dominant control on forest biophysical cooling trends, with plant anisihydricity modulating regional responses. Canadian boreal and montane forest risk assessments that rely on vegetation-mediated cooling credits should incorporate updated VPD projections rather than static assumptions. Saskatchewan positioned green hydrogen development as a core component of its renewable transition strategy and signaled expanded India-Canada project partnerships. Environmental consultants supporting site selection for electrolysis facilities should flag upcoming provincial permitting alignments under the Saskatchewan Environmental Management and Protection Act. The province has identified green hydrogen explicitly within its broader renewable energy objectives for the coming decade. Project partnerships under discussion would link Saskatchewan resources with Indian technology and investment partners. Site selection work must therefore account for both technical resource factors and the specific permitting steps required under the Environmental Management and Protection Act. Consultants are advised to track any forthcoming guidance that clarifies how electrolysis facilities will be assessed for air, water, and land impacts. Early coordination with provincial regulators is recommended to avoid delays once project proposals move into formal review. If you're working on infrastructure projects in British Columbia, review BC Hydro's revised demand forecasts against current load assumptions. If you handle flood-related claims in Manitoba, confirm the updated disaster assistance documentation requirements for 2026 submissions. If you're monitoring sites near the Trail Road facility in Ontario, align construction phase groundwater programs with existing EPA conditions. If you conduct forest-adjacent risk assessments in Western provinces, incorporate updated vapor pressure deficit projections. Ongoing technical feedback on BC hydro capacity modeling remains open through existing liaison channels. Manitoba disaster assistance claim cycles now operate under the expanded eligibility criteria for the next 30 days. Watch for potential IEESO updates on additional battery storage procurement rounds in Ontario. There's a nuance here worth understanding when benzene detections appear inconsistent across nested wells. A Phase 2 report shows benzene above CSR standards in a deeper monitoring well, while the up-gradient shallow well remains non-detect, even though both screens sit in the same aquifer unit. The apparent reversal often traces to subtle vertical gradients and sorption differences rather than laboratory error. BC CSR Protocol 4 requires explicit consideration of vertical profiling when concentrations vary by more than an order of magnitude between adjacent screens. Experienced reviewers cross-check historical water level data for seasonal reversals and request low-flow sampling logs before accepting the dataset as representative. The most common mistake is assuming the shallow well defines the source boundary. Install a short-screened well at the precise suspected release depth and resample under stabilized drawdown conditions before revising the conceptual site model. Tomorrow, watch for further details on IESO battery storage procurement timing in Ontario. That covers today's environmental intelligence. If you found this useful, share it with a colleague who needs to stay current. We'll be back with the next briefing. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Modern Investing Techniques a listen. Modern strategies for Canadian and U.S. investors. You can explore the whole lineup at neuranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.